Welcome back to the Show Me Show podcast for episode number 55. And today we have a show that we have been wanting to make for a little while now because the first weekend of the NCAA tournament has come and gone. And we are actually, me and Luke are both in the midst of watching the Sweet 16 games right now as we speak. Overtime game, K-State and Michigan State, as well as UConn and Arkansas in action as well. If you want to call it action, UConn is burying Arkansas. And we've got lots of upsets to cover. Obviously, it's March, baby. We sleep in May. We have some NFL free agency stuff that we didn't get to a little while back. And we have some segments. And then we also have some chatter about the World Baseball Classic. That was awesome. And so we'll get to that as well. And me and Luke are both in the midst of a storm right now as well. So if you hear some house rattling or thunder, there was just a really big thing of thunder just now. I'm not sure if it picks that up or not.
Yep, I heard that too.
Yeah, so that's that. And we'll just go ahead and get on into the show. Like I said, in the midst of a great overtime game, first overtime game of the entire NCAA tournament.
Great way to kick off the second round.
Yeah, really good. And one thing that is interesting about the second round that I always think, Luke, is how do we not schedule this for standalone games? I know that would mean that some games would have to be during the work day, kind of, but I feel like they should probably do that at some point. But that's all right. It's okay. Also going
or at least spread them out a little bit more.
Yeah, this game and the Arkansas UConn game are pretty stacked on top of each other. At least I thought. But yeah, where do you even want to start? We both had all of our rooting interests are now gone. We talked about them last week, and yeah, they're gone. So I think we should just kick it to you. You had the most devastating one to start off the tournament. 15 seed Princeton, the Smart Boys, over the Zona Wildcats, the 2 seed Zona Wildcats at that, as they try to collect them. All it seems like lately in terms of losing to all kinds of different seeds. Not as bad as Purdue, but yeah.
Oh,
Take it away, Luke.
Yeah, I actually it was so bad that I actually retired from Twitter for a small amount of time, and then whenever Purdue lost, I came out of retirement because obviously I had to come out and make fun of Purdue. But yeah, it was a terrible game. I had a weird feeling the entirety of this game because even though we had a 10-point, 8-point lead, Princeton was playing fun basketball. If that makes any sense. They were getting some boards, making some big time shots, and they were just kind of hanging around. And that's not a type of game that Arizona is good at winning, as some guy, Tyson Walker, just nailed a 3-pointer. It's not the game that Arizona is built to play. Whenever they win, they either are going back and forth with the other team, or they just blow them out. They're not great at holding a small lead. And so at the end of the game, I started tweeting out, we were up by 10. I think it was 51-41. And I texted you, Cam, and I was like, I'm getting a weird feeling about this game. And then sure enough, Princeton rattles off a 9-0 run. They're back in the game. And then Kerr Kriisa goes cold. They don't give Tubelis the ball at all for some reason. Ballo doesn't get the ball at all for some reason, even though he's 3 inches taller than every single player, and he could just literally slam dunk it on all of them. They didn't give him the ball. So that was very weird, and they relied on their guards, and per usual, it didn't turn out good. Arizona's guards were very inconsistent all year. I love Kerr Kriisa. He just entered the transfer portal, which is sad, but he brought a lot of big moments to Arizona, so wish him the best. But he was inconsistent all year. Courtney Ramey, the St. Louis kid, he was inconsistent all year. Pele Larson, he was pretty inconsistent. He was never really spectacular, but he wasn't really bad either. And then Kylan Boswell is 17 years old, so you can imagine he's probably pretty inconsistent as well. And when you rely on those guys to make shots, it doesn't always work out. And so I was very disappointed with the game plan that we didn't end up going to Tubelis or Balo. But we become the third 2 seed in the last 3 years to lose in the first round to a 15 seed. I assume something just happened. I'm about 10 seconds behind than what Cam is on the game here. Oh, Hauser just got hurt. Is that what you were oohing and ahhing about? Okay. Did he just get his ankles broken? Oh,
I thought he may have pulled his Achilles, but maybe not.
oh, never mind. It looked like his teammate might have ran into him. I don't know what just happened, but well, he's staying in the game, so big dog, I guess.
So did Kobe.
But yeah, it was a tough scene. And then I during the Mizzou game when Princeton was blowing them out, I may have tweeted out some very illegal things that I was going to do to their coach and their campus. So I would like to hereby revoke those. In the moment, I meant them, but thinking about them a little bit later, I do not mean them. So I will not be committing any terrorist attacks. Let's just put that out there for good. But yeah, I mean that was the upset of the day on day one. Obviously, Furman beat Virginia in a very, very exciting game. Kevin Harlan had a great call on that. Maryland, West Virginia was a shocker. I kind of thought West Virginia would just dominate Maryland, but Maryland hung in, and then they ultimately won the game. Cam, feel free to jump in at any point in time. I'm just going to kind of go down the list of games here.
Yeah.
Mizzou beats Utah State in the third game of the day.
And that was huge, Luke.
Was
the first time
win
in 13 years. So for me and you, I briefly remember them winning their last NCAA tournament game, but it's more I just remember my dad being excited and not actually remembering the game. Now, my first NCAA Mizzou basketball memory is their loss to Norfolk State. I mean, that's my first college basketball Mizzou memory.
The Prescott brothers.
Pressey, not Prescott, but
yes, Presley.
So it was really fun, and it was a really fun Mizzou season. And that's really all you can say about it and about the season. And the program was completely re-energized by Dennis and his coaching staff and the players that he developed this year. And I am so glad that Dennis is our coach. And I'm a huge fan of Desiree Reed-Francois, our AD. She knows how to pick them. Hopefully Drink figures it out so she doesn't have to fire his
That wasn't
ass,
her pick,
but,
though.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I don't want – I don't hate Drink as some people do, Ron Milheiser. I don't hate Drink as some people do, and I don't want to talk about other people's jobs in terms of people losing them. But she probably might be able to pick a good football coach too at some point.
Oh yeah, probably.
But like I said, I'd rather that not happen right now. But yeah, that's all you can really say about it. Is Utah State was just off in terms of their shooting game. And there's a metric that Mizzou was the luckiest team in the entire NCAA tournament this year. So that's interesting that they also, Utah State was just off their shooting game against the luckiest team in basketball. So,
got to have some luck, though, to win.
Oh, for sure. Far. But that does make – think about it. We made 2 buzzer beaters this year and had some other just very lucky games. Things that – Luke, it was just like, we've talked about this throughout the year. It's just like things that just don't happen to Mizzou or actually do the exact opposite and go the other way completely. So it's almost like Dennis lifted some kind of evil spirit off the basketball program and maybe even off the entire program. We'll have to see. But,
oh, man.
That would be beautiful. But
that would be.
Yeah. So that's pretty much
Cleveland State, yeah.
That's pretty much the South region.
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah. Oh,
Mizzou,
Furman.
the stat,
Furman.
by the way, the stat held true, Cam. They score 70 points, they win. They scored 76 points against Utah.
You're right.
Utah State, my apologies. And then against Princeton, they only put up 63. So, I mean, the stat held true all year. It was get to 70 points. That was the goal. Get to 70 points and you win the game. And they couldn't do that against Princeton, and they lost. So, I mean, if you can hold Mizzou down, you'll beat them. And then some other games on Friday, Kansas, Alabama both moved on. San Diego State beat Charleston in a very close game. Obviously, the Princeton beat Arizona in the very sad matchup for us. Oh, that was a sweet dunk by Keontae Johnson. And then Arkansas beat Illinois in a thriller, which I did not watch at all because I was so distraught by the result of the Arizona game that I just sat with my hands or my head in my hands for probably 30 minutes. And by the time I was done, by the time I was out of that zone, the game was already over. The Arkansas-Illinois one. So I didn't get a chance to watch that at all.
Luke was dead.
Which was, I guess it was, yeah, I was dead. I mean, you have to remember what I was going through here. This was about 24 hours after Aaron Rodgers said that he's leaving. He wants to play for the Jets. And then I have this result happen by about 24 hours later. So everything was just piling down. And, sometimes, when you have moments like that, it brings out the worst in you and you start thinking, I'm a loser, and it brings out all kinds of thoughts inside you. It's not necessarily the loss itself, but it's just the aura of the loss that just really makes it sad. So I was dead. I was a dead man for a good portion, and even the rest of the day, I really didn't get involved in a lot of the games because I just couldn't. It just didn't feel right to get involved. But Auburn beat Iowa in a close game, but that was Cam's lock. I think we know the curse of Fran McCaffrey. So Duke, this was an interesting game because Oral Roberts was a heavy pick to upset Duke, but then Duke just blew him out. Oral Roberts could not score. They have one of the top offenses in the nation. They were held to just 51 points. They didn't score a single point until like 12 minutes into the game. So Duke's defense did an amazing job. And wow, it is cats and dogs outside right now.
Pouring.
Yeah. Texas took care of Colgate. Northwestern took care of Boise State. Tennessee went neck and neck with a Louisiana Lafayette team. Back and forth. That was a really fun game to watch. Shout out Louisiana for making that close. Houston took care of Kentucky. UCLA took care of UNC Asheville, and Penn State blew out Texas A&M. This was a pick that me and you were high on. We both had them going to the Elite Eight, and then Penn State just came in and took care of business. So it was a weird way to finish out the first day, but hey, it's March. So
yeah. And then,
you have any other thoughts on the first day? Some
of the games that you were talking about, the Oral Roberts one was honestly hilarious because the whole internet was like, you always have people online, you have to pick at least one or two 12 over 5 in your bracket every single year. And everybody's like, oh, this is the 12 over 5 that we need. Duke versus Oral Roberts. Take Oral Roberts, and it just fell flat on their faces. I mean, they were horrible. Duke was awesome. Yeah, from the jump, and I mean that was kind of all she wrote. And then the Furman game was wild, just a wild scene of events. I mean, their most veteran player who was on the national title team throws it away, like a
Virginia,
kind of like a Paxton Lynch type of throw into coverage that just no reason to do it. And Carson they had Wentz. A timeout, which made it even worse. So really tough scene there. But over to the second day, Luke. And we had a moment.
Oh, yeah. This is when things
really started hitting the fan. And I just want to start off. We're just going to start off here with the biggest upset. Fairleigh Dickinson over Purdue. And me and Luke, made a point to talk about this. This is a game where if you were watching it, if you saw the events unfold, you will remember it for the rest of your life because it was history. Only the second time ever a 16 seed has defeated a number 1 seed in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. And Luke, I'll just start with you. Where were you?
Where was I? I was in my living room. I was
Okay.
in my living room watching it. I was watching the entirety of the game because this was the first game on the evening slate. And
Yep.
so I had it on from the get-go. And watching Fairleigh Dickinson from the jump was amazing. Like, they were just going out there playing their hearts out. And my initial thought was, wow, this is fun to watch, but it's gonna fall apart at some point. Like, they can't keep this up the entire
the
game.
other shoe's gotta drop.
Exactly. Like, they're literally solely playing off effort right now. Like, Purdue is so much more talented. Fairleigh Dickinson is just playing off effort. That's going to collapse, in the second half. And it did not. They kept it up. And people are going to clown Zach Edey, which they already have, but this was not his fault. I remember we clowned Zach Edey around this time last year because we said he was so unathletic, but he played amazing. It seemed like every time he got the ball, there was at least 2. Most of the time, there was 3 guys on him every time he got the ball. So the fact that he scored 21 points, put up like 10 boards, I don't remember what the exact stat line was, but it was somewhere around that. The fact that he did that, being double guarded, triple guarded the entirety of the game, is insane. This is solely on his teammates for sucking. They shot 8 for 37 from the field. 8 for 37. Purdue players not named Zach Edey. That is, in case you want me to tell you, that is really bad. If you can't figure that out on your own, that's a lot of missed shots. And they missed so many 3-pointers, man. It wasn't sad because I was rooting for Fairleigh Dickinson, but it was
Gross.
tough to watch. Just a
was
1
gross.
seed. I mean, this is a 1 seed. This is supposed to be one of the 4 best teams in the tournament. And outside of that one player, they're not. They're definitely not the best team in the tournament. They were maybe like a top. They maybe be like a 7 seed without Zach Edey if they just had like some mid center. So that's how much he elevated that squad. He'll probably be back next year. Maybe a Purdue redemption tour. We don't know.
Yeah, there is the stat, because now we have a stat for it since it's happened one time. Virginia, the only other 1 seed to be defeated by a 16 seed. Next year, they went on to win the national title. So that could happen. But I was at the gym getting ready to get a lift in when Luke texted me with 6 minutes, 50 seconds left, I want to say, to just turn it on
I
because
don't remember what it was.
chaos is ensuing. And Cam, you got to watch this game. And very true. It was very true. I kind of just stopped what I was doing and made sure that I could see the TV at all times from what I was doing. So definitely a game that I will not forget. Just like I don't forget the UMBC versus Virginia game. I was in my living room as well for that one. But it's just wild. It just completely disrupts everything. And hell, they almost beat Florida Atlantic too. It was very close. So and that may be the dagger. Sorry, Luke, I forgot you're behind, but so yeah.
Man, you ruined it for me. You haven't even started playing yet.
What else happened on the second day, Friday?
I want to say one more thing about that game. People are saying this is the greatest upset of all time, or like even the greatest Cinderella run of all time. Some people are saying St. Peter's last year, which that was incredible. The St. Peter's run was awesome. But you have to think, Fairleigh Dickinson is in the Northeast Conference, which only has 8 teams, and all 8 of these teams, either they don't qualify, like 2 of them, Stonehill College and Merrimack, they haven't even been in Division I long enough to qualify for the tournament. And some of these teams, Long Island University was like 3-27 or something ridiculous. Like these teams sucked. They played in a terrible conference. They were the shortest team on average. So their tallest player, I don't even know if he played or not because I don't know, but their tallest listed player on their roster was 6'7". That was their tallest player. Zach Edey is 7'4". He was 9 inches taller than their tallest player. They were the shortest team on average, and it was literally just like a bunch of midgets like running around like Gulliver's Travels, if you remember that show at all, where they had to tie down the giant, like all the little people tied down the giant. That was literally what Fairleigh Dickinson did to Zach Edey. They're one of the, if you saw their campus, it is not very big at all. Like our local college, ECC, is probably very similar in size.
Yeah, I was just
campus.
about to say that. Although we didn't see the whole campus, we just saw like one building.
That's true.
But yeah, K-State advancing on.
Yeah, they are? Dude, you're ruining it for me. It's only a 3-point game here.
They're up by 5.
Dude, you gotta wait a second. They're up by 3. 96-93.
Average Spectrum streamer.
Average is streamer in general. Oh, there it goes. Yep. K-State is indeed advancing. That was a weird, awkward signs. Oh, yeah. How about that? What a story for them. Picked last in the Big 12, and now they're going to be top 8 in the nation. So, pretty cool story for them. Their coach is probably going to win Coach of the Year. Marquise Noel. I don't know. How many assists did he have? The record was 18, and I know he had 17 at least.
That's just so tough. They didn't even get a shot off. God.
Yeah, that was pretty
Noel.
bad. Marquise Noel, by the way, he just broke the NCAA tournament record for assists in a game. He had 19 assists.
He's like Trey Burke. I'm getting a Trey Burke-ish like run from him.
And he got the block and the steal on that final play.
Michigan State.
Talk about carrying your team.
Michigan State. I mean, if they were in another region, they'd probably freaking win. They played damn good too. This is nuts. Yeah.
I don't know if you could say that. There's a lot of good teams left. Kansas State just.
I'm just saying
that was a great game.
Shout
out to that game.
How well they just played.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that would win a bunch of games, and so. Ron just texted me what
so much for the 100-1 odds I had on 100-1 odds I had them on winning the championship. It was a long shot anyway. But back to Fairleigh Dickinson. I wasn't done with my rant there. I apologize for the like 2-minute break there. So their campus incredibly small. Their coach was coaching Division II basketball last year. And then he's going to go out and he's going to beat a top 4 team, a number 1 seed in the tournament. That's pretty cool. Most of these guys, I know some of their best players like Roberts, he was in Division II last year. A lot of these guys transferred from Division II to play on Fairleigh Dickinson. So these guys were like not super talented, not highly recruited at all. And then they just go out and beat Purdue, who was ranked number 1 for a majority of the time in the AP poll this year. So that's pretty cool to see that. Probably the greatest upset of all time, if you had to ask me, just based off facilities and stuff. So shout out to them. And then rest of Friday. Sorry, I just had to get that off my chest there. Those are facts that I had gathered that I thought were very cool. So rest of Friday's games, we'll start off early slate. Michigan State beat USC, which USC kind of came out dead. They didn't really have much life. They played a lot worse than I think a lot of people thought.
Good color matchup.
Kennesaw State was it was a beautiful color match. Big Ten matchup too, in conference matchup.
It's getting the eyes ready for the future, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Kennesaw State Xavier next. This was actually a really, really entertaining game. Kennesaw State had Xavier on the ropes for a lot of this game. Kennesaw State played really well. I put them on the watch out for them. I put them in the watch out tier on the podcast last week. But then Xavier just did what their offense does, and they just went on an incredible run to retake the lead. Baylor took care of UCSB. St. Mary's took care of VCU. VCU was, as I predicted, they were dead. I kind of thought that, VCU March team, but They never really moved the needle with me all year, so this is kind of just like how it ends. Marquette took care of Vermont. Pittsburgh, this was a disgusting game. There was a total of 100 points scored. Iowa State and Pittsburgh game. 100 points total. That was it. Pittsburgh wins 59-41. This was a disgustingly bad shooting matchup.
Yep. Jeff Capel.
Creighton took care of NC State. You're welcome for that, Cam. Talking out of
Close
that.
game, though.
UConn,
Close game.
It was closer than what I thought it would be. UConn took care of Iona in the second half. They came out of the locker rooms and blew them out. And then the evening slate, obviously we talked about FDU, Kentucky had their way with Providence. Gonzaga beat Grand Canyon. Miami beat Drake in a really close game. The score doesn't say how close it was. That game was back and forth the entirety of the game. That one Garrett White guy on Drake, he seems like he's been there forever. He's who I associate with Drake now. Florida Atlantic. Hold on, we'll come back to that game because I want to talk about that. Kansas State took care of Montana State. Indiana beat Kent State. Which, fun fact about the Indiana game, that game was taking place in Albany, New York. Indiana and Kent State, their colleges are in Eastern Time. The stadium they were playing in Albany, Eastern Time. That game didn't finish until almost 1 a.m. Eastern Time. It started at 10:36 p.m. Eastern Time for two teams in Eastern Time playing in Eastern Time. It was just it was wild. Like, imagine trying to warm up and like you're in the locker room at halftime and it's almost midnight. Like that just that has to be weird. That has to feel weird. And then TCU came back and took care of Arizona State, which Arizona State, shout out to them. They played a lot better than Arizona in this tournament for sure, but they almost beat TCU, who is a very good team. And then finally, Florida Atlantic beat Memphis. This was it might have been the game of the first round, if you ask me. As far as like game wise, like FDU was the upset of the first round, but Memphis FAU was back and forth the entirety of the game, and it was a weird game. Oh. Cam, the power just went out in my house. Man. I don't know how to stop this. I don't know how to stop this recording, Cam. I really don't. Can I stop? Please let me stop the recording.